Okay, can we have our public announcement, please?
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. Copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure, and Planning Department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby of this conference room. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representative to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please write your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the lobby. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the Commission and the Board will be retained by the Secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please sign in on that same sheet. The Planning Commission and the Board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available in the lobby. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to district court.
Okay, being the first one to mess up, just a reminder that if you want to speak, you need to push the button and speak directly into the microphones so that number one, you can be heard, number two, it can be recorded. With that, the first item of business is to recess the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and call to order the BZA meeting. Can we do this by consent? See if there's any consent on these. We'll go through and see if there's anything needs to be done by consent. There are no minutes to approve. Case number BZA 2019-00033. Anybody on the commission want to hear that item? Anybody in the audience want to hear that item? We'll take that by consent. Item number BZA 2019-00035, a city variance to allow a one rooftop sign and one flag mounted sign. Anybody on the commission want to hear that item?
Mr. Chairman, I'll be abstaining from that item.
Okay, we'll have one abstention on that one. Anybody in the audience want to hear that item? If not, we will take that by consent. Item number 3, BZA 2019-00036, a variance to reduce street side setbacks. Anybody on the commission want to hear that item? Seeing none, is there anybody in the audience that want to hear that item? Seeing none, we will take that by consent. Do we have a motion? Have a motion by Mr. Joe Johnson, a second by Mrs. Miles. All those in favor signify.
Aye.
Aye. Close the BZA and reopen the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. We'll work through those items the same way, seeing which items we can take by consent. The first item I have to take is the minutes of September the 19th. My records show that Mr. Blick was absent, but he's not here, so that won't.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 10-0-1. Okay, first item, subdivision 2019-00029, a final plat, North Gate, 3rd edition. Anybody on the commission want to hear that item? Anybody in the audience wish to hear this item? We'll take that by consent. Item 2-2, subdivision 2019-00033, final plat for the VCRC edition. Anybody on the commission wish to hear this item? Seeing none, is there anybody in the audience that would like to hear that item? Item 2-2 we will take by consent. Item 2.3, sub 2019-00036, one-step final plat, Sedgwick County Fire Station number 31. Anybody on the commission want to hear that item? Seeing none, anybody in the audience wish to hear that item? We will take that by consent.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve items 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3 on consent.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Green, a second by Mr. Hartman. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
public hearing for vacation items, number 3.1. Anybody on the commission wish to hear this item?
Mr. Chairman, we did receive a letter of opposition, so I would like to hear this item.
We will hear item 3.1. Additional public hearing items. Item number 4.1, conditional use 00034, conditional use to amend document number con 2004-0030 to expand area for vehicle sales. Anybody on the commission wish to hear this item?
I'd like to hear this item,
We
please.
will hear that item. Item 4.2, county conditional use for the allow safety services for a future county fire station in a rural residential zoning. Anybody on the commission want to hear that item? Anybody in the audience wish to hear that item? 4.2 we will take by consent. 4.3, a city CUP amendment of the Brant property for dealing with the screening wall requirements. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing none, anybody in the audience wish to hear that item? Okay, item 4.3 we will take by consent. Item 4.4 has been withdrawn. We had one note said deferred indefinitely and withdrawn. What is the difference between deferred indefinitely and withdrawn?
Withdrawn means that they won't be coming.
Yeah.
Withdrawn means that it won't be coming back. They have decided to not proceed. Deferral is just meaning that they want to study it more, so.
Okay, so that one's off our books. 4.5, county zone change from rural residential to SF20 single-family residential. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing none, does anybody in the audience wish to hear that item? We'll take 4.5 by consent. Item 4.6, city zone change from SF5 single-family to TF3 two-family residential. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing none, anybody in the audience wish to hear that item? We will hear item 4.6. Item 4.7, a county zone change from SF20 single-family residential to office warehouse. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Anybody in the audience? That's the one you want to hear? Okay. So we will hear. Anybody in the audience wish to hear item 4.6, which is the zone change from single-family SF5 to TF3? Okay, seeing none, we will take item 4.6 by consent.
I move to approve item number 4.2, 4.3, and 4.5.
Second.
You want to add 4.6 to that also?
And 4.6.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mrs. Miles, second by Mr. Hartman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
5.1 by consent. We have to hear that?
It's just setting the hearing.
So that, basically it's to set a hearing date for November 7th. Does anybody have an objection to that? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Green, a second by Mr. Hartman to set that date to November 7th, 2019 to hold that hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 11-0. To item 3.1. You got the stage.
Neil Stroh, Planning Staff. Item 3.1 is a city vacation case of a portion of a platted alley. This is located on the east side of West Street, 1 block north of Kellogg. The purpose of the vacation case is to reconfigure a parking lot for McDonald's restaurant. The applicant does own the property both to the west and east of the proposed alley vacation. What they intend to do is close off the entrance on Taft right here. That, of course, would create a dead end for the alley, so the applicant will be providing an east-west public access easement running from the end of the alley here, both to West Street and to Illinois to the east. There is a utility, there's a sewer line in the alley, so we will be getting a 20-foot easement as part of that vacation. And this was reviewed at our last subdivision committee meeting, and it was recommended to be approved. This is a copy of the site plan. It does allow for a wide turning radius for truck traffic from northern properties to exit off into West Street. And again, there's also an access easement extending to the east to Illinois. Questions for staff?
Questions for staff. Mr. Hartman.
Was anything brought up about trucks coming from the north and exiting back to the east to Illinois so that they can get down to Taft where there's a light to get out on the West Street? Because the way it is now, where they go back to West Street right there, there's no traffic signal there. Not getting on and off of West Street is a big problem in that area.
No, that was not discussed. There was just, again, the applicant allowed for truck traffic to enter to the west.
Other questions for staff? And then, thanks, Neil. Agent or applicant, if you'd like to come, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 10 minutes.
Mark Bashamp with Olson and representing McDonald's for this project. We did look at this real hard as far as this vacation. In order to allow for a double drive-through, it needs to cross the alley. And in crossing the alley, if you don't vacate the alley, you've got conflicting traffic and stacking of cars within the alley that you can't control. We just recently completed a project 2 years ago where that scenario existed for about 20 years. And the police, the city staff were all encouraged to vacate the alley because there was numerous accidents that occurred on the alley. There was a lot of cut-through traffic on this alley, a lot of speed and a lot of use as far as cut-through. we are still allowing all that traffic to continue through McDonald's in order to continue that north-south traffic. What is happening today, if the double drive-through the double drive-through allows us additional stacking of McDonald's traffic. Right now, that drive-through stacks onto on West Street and backs up into the intersection. By moving and making this double drive-through on the other side, it allows that to happen. Also on Taft Street, people that we met with 3 of the property owners individually there at McDonald's, and numerous times that we were there, people are coming into Taft going the wrong way, turning around and going back through the drive-through. So we have a conflicting with our handicap stalls, people going the wrong direction, and there's no control of that. By closing or vacating this alley allows those traffic movements to be controlled in either direction and essentially the trucks going to West Street, that is a WB 67, which is designed, that's an interstate truck. And that's what it's designed for. More than likely, all the trucks that are being used in that alley are much smaller trucks, but we're allocating for that truck. And that was part of the subdivision regs. We had radiuses shown, but instead of showing radiuses, I believe staff and we agreed to essentially maintain a radius for that type of truck, because that's a designation of a semi, and in order to keep those radiuses. As far as the comment that was made about going back to Illinois, there's a building right there real close to that corner, and being able to make that movement will make that pretty difficult. And the owner of that building sitting in here as well, and that would be something that we would have to look at pretty hard. Also there's additional power lines right in there that have to be relocated in order to make that movement back over to Illinois. So that's the reason now that we're taking everything back to west. Everything would have to be right out only anyway. And so that opening would come when the light turns red. That truck could make that movement at an easy would be a lot easier. So I guess that's all I have. Any questions for me?
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir. We'll have some audience participation, then I'll have you back. So is there anybody from the audience that would like to speak on this issue? Step forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, please, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name's Rob Adams. Address is 1921 North Burning Tree Court, Wichita. We have the business to the north of the McDonald's Salon Brands. And at this point, they clearly have a parking and drive-through issue. That's clear. I absolutely agree with the gentleman. But I really don't believe that this cures his problem, and it creates a tremendous hindrance on our business. We, at this point, have McDonald's customers parking in our parking lot all the time, all day long. We've never complained about it, never said a word about it. They have to do that because it's so difficult to get into that McDonald's. They end up turning into our place, they park, they go over to McDonald's, they come back. Doing this plan that he has proposed, I think, compounds that issue, and it doesn't solve their parking issue at all. I think that we'll have more problems. We also have employees and customers that constantly use that alley all day long to get out onto Taft so that they can make that light. Turning left out of our parking lot is virtually impossible on West Street. Anybody who drives down West Street knows there's a lot of traffic. I think with the current plans that they proposed, that we'll have more accidents on West Street. There already are now. It's definitely would be a hindrance to our customers and to our employees if these plans go forth in closing down this alley. So Tiffany Moore represents the owner of the building, which is Tom Bowles. It's Hayes Partners. I don't know if you have anything you want to add, Tiff.
Yeah.
Tiff's the daughter.
Yeah. I think you covered most of it, so.
Okay.
Okay. Speak in the microphone, and could you give us your address, please, your name and address?
Tiffany Moore, 2338 North Lakeside Circle, Andover.
Thank you. Can I have staff bring up an aerial of this, because I have a question in terms. Okay, if you would use the mouse and look at that, could you tell us where your business is in relationship to the McDonald's?
Let's see here.
Show it up, just so we're all on the same page. That's McDonald's right there?
Yeah, so McDonald's is,
This is McDonald's.
Okay?
Yep.
And this is us right here.
Okay.
So we are directly to the north of them. This parking right here is taken by McDonald's almost all day long. Definitely in the morning, it's bad. Because people miss this entrance here and they take ours and they end up parking here and walking over.
Yeah.
That's what it is now. I think that will get worse if they close off this alley.
some
And it-
McDonald's customers do come out of the drive-through and then make a right hand back into our parking lot to use the alleyway to then hang a left to go to the street light
Yeah.
and make a safe south turn on West Street.
Turning left out of McDonald's to go south is very difficult, as it is in our parking lot, so they actually come through to go back down the alley so they can get to the light here at West Street, right here. So I think it'll get worse by closing down the alley for their customers and for ours.
Mr. Foster, I could tell you had a question for me there.
Does the truck aspect of this hurt you in terms of the trucks coming down and, you know, getting out on the west?
I don't know that the truck traffic hurts us. I know some of the business there's to the east have trucks coming through there for deliveries and pickups. You know, that's, I don't know that it's hurt us up to this point. I don't think it'll hurt us going forward either.
May I continue? Yeah. Do you currently have signage up prohibiting parking, except
Yes.
for your customers?
Yes.
Thank you.
My understanding, Mr. Vincent's got a add-on information that we may need.
Under Kansas statutes annotated 12504, it says that if any party on either side of the alleyway objects to a vacation, it's not permitted. There's a Gerber versus City of Lawrence case that says basically an owner along either side adjacent to the alley, if objects to it, has the veto power to that vacation.
What is the?
Therefore, it would appear that an owner that's adjacent to the alley is an objection to the vacation.
Is there a formal process of objections that need to be in writing? Does it just has to be communicated? Mr. Foster,
Does adjacent mean touching at any point versus on either side?
It's referenced at either side.
Okay, but if they're touching at a corner to the northwest in this case, are they adjacent? Comes down to the definition of adjacent.
Yeah, they may have to point that out. That's why I kind of asked them to point out the property in question. But the one that they reference looks like it's an adjacent to, or it's a contiguous to the alley.
It's not contiguous to the part that's being asked to be closed.
It doesn't matter. The alley runs all the way up and down. So it doesn't have to be just the portion that's trying to be vacated. It's the entire alleyway. So the property furthest north on the other side of this, if they objected to it under Kansas law, would veto the vacation.
Mr. Foster.
Final question. You know, sometimes we require a traffic study on these items, and, you know, from some of the things they've described, it's kind of mucked up down there, but would a traffic study help to perhaps analyze this a little bit better, and their objection may go away?
Mr. Green, did you have a question?
Yeah, it's actually for the applicant more than for the speakers.
Okay, any other questions for the speakers? Not, thank you. Is there anybody else from the audience that wishes to speak on this issue?
My name is Mike Martin. My address is 120 North Reese Road. My mother owns the building right here, and I rent it, rent half of it, and the other half's rented. I like to echo what they say. It's a mess. And talking about, I think the actual, what do you want to say, application was for a one-way. It definitely needs to be two-way at minimum. On there, but I want to echo what they say. I disagree with it. I'm not for it. It will affect me. I do have, customers that come through there, and there are bigger trucks that come both ways, and they do block the alley further down, even down, towards Burger King and all of that. They block the alley. So it will affect me too, so just not as much as it will them.
Any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on this issue? If not, we'll bring the applicant back. You will have, is it 2 minutes? Have 2 minutes for rebuttal.
Actually, I think that we've accommodated all the traffic to be able to go through in all directions to be able to, we really have not affected anything that's to the north of the vacation because it's continuing traffic going north-south. When we met with the owners, that was one thing that was changed was instead of having one-way to have two-way to accommodate that two-way traffic and allow the traffic to go through the McDonald's parking lot. So I guess we're much in favor of expanding the double drive-through. If this doesn't pass, I don't know what the position of McDonald's will be in redoing the store, remodeling the store, because it is under a full remodel slated for next year. And so we'll see how that moves forward on the double drive-through scenario. But I'll be standing for any questions. I think one of you had a question.
Any questions for the speaker? Mr. Green?
On the, we've got a site drawing here that it appears as though you're trying to show turn radius for the large semi. If we could have
pull
the,
it back up?
yeah, that drawing there. Are the green and red lines, those indicate turning radiuses, correct?
Those are the back wheels.
Okay, and then, so there is no curb that would prevent traffic north of your property from coming down through the McDonald's property and either going east to Illinois or west to West Street.
That's correct. They can go either direction.
So you have provided
Right.
full access, north and south, east and west. Yeah, I just want, yeah, I could,
Yeah.
I saw that, but I just wanted, the clarifying point for me was the red and green lines indicating the turn radiuses.
Yeah,
Not curb.
right. That's turning radiuses, and that is turning radius. And then we'll have curbs on the outside of that in order for landscaping and so forth. So you're.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Joe Johnson?
Mr. Van Zant, so what am I missing here? We have an owner that's objecting to it, right?
Sounds like two owners to me.
So what are we talking about?
This case in question is the Gerber case. The facts were, in that case, the person objecting was, in this example, would be like up north of the alley. It did not touch the portion of the alley that wished to be vacated. So to me, it's a very similar, if not exact factual situation. It doesn't provide any kind of an alternative. It's basically, as it says, it provides an adjacent owner the veto power. And so the only thing that I can think of would be if the applicant would wish to defer to try to work something out with the neighbors.
Are we back to the commission? I would move we defer this and let them have a chance to work out something.
Do we need to put a time frame on that deferment, or just until?
What would be fair?
I'm asking a staff question. Is that, do we need to ask for a time frame on a deferment, or can we just defer it indefinitely?
Well, I guess the question is whether the applicant is willing to do that, and then if he is, how long do they think it would take? Staff would prefer to have some end date so it doesn't just go
That's kind of what I
on.
was thinking. You have the
Well, I mean, we would, we'd be interested in talking and see if there is a solution. There is a lot of moving parts here that we will take some time to work through. So, I'm just throwing out a time frame of 3 months. I'm quite sure it'll be sooner than that, but that's,
we can accommodate sooner if it comes up, but so would your motion for a period of 3 months or sooner? Okay, that's the motion to defer. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
There's a second by Mr. Green. Any further discussion? Question, Mr. McKay.
I'd like to have an explanation because their drive-up stuff, the double bay drive-up is clear on the east side of the alley, correct?
the double drive-through is on the east side of the alley. The proposed double drive-through, yes.
So basically, all you're doing is driving across the existing alley today, correct?
No, the existing is right.
If you could use the mouse and then speak so we can
You're
get it
right.
on the record.
Okay,
Appreciate that.
all right.
Thank you.
Gotcha. The existing drive-through is right here. So when a car is sitting right here at the drive-through, he's parallel and almost over into the alley when he's in the drive-through. Going two takes them in one lane, they're dividing in two, and then going back to single to go out.
I guess my question is this, by putting that on the east side of the alley, you're really not encroaching on the alley except to drive across it after you make your order into either to get into it or to get it across?
Correct. And let's say that it moves forward and the alley stays open. You will have traffic that will block the alley in both directions. So when people are coming out after ordering and they're stacked up at the pay window, the alley will be closed down during that time frame. And also at the same point, that's where the accidents was happened for over 20 years, and that was in Junction City, and that just got done 2 years ago.
I guess they're vacating it, but they're still letting utilization by the people to the north. Is that correct?
Excuse me?
I said, the utilization of the vacated alley, you're still letting the people to the north use it?
Not to go through. If a vacation goes through, traffic would be, oh, sorry, how do I back up here?
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. It'll be right turn. That's why the radius was changed.
Essentially, what we're looking at is everything from the drive-through to the south, you would not be able to go through
But they
if
could
the alley
use-
was
They
vacated.
could use your parking lot.
Excuse me? Yes, and they turn and be able to use the parking lot in either direction on the north side.
Mr. Foster.
Does this new scenario increase your parking count on the overall property?
No, it reduces it. But we are still remaining 12 over is what is required by your zoning requirement. As far as the property owners that say there's people that parking in their parking lot, I think that's a phone call to the operator and working out with him to, making sure that's signed properly, and probably a few tickets would probably take care of that.
Mr. Foster.
This is for Mr. Van Zant. Given that court case, does that automatically become city policy? Are there two different things happening here? Do you have a court case that can be referenced, or is this on city policy anyway?
Well, it's state statute and a court case. So becomes city policy then.
Okay, we have a motion to defer. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, a call for a vote on the motion. Those in favor of deferment for 3 months signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Can I make a comment?
Can, Mr.
You know, I've been
McKay?
in this business for a long time, and this is the first time, and I've vacated a lot of alleyways and right-of-ways, that this has ever come up that attached on the outside of the area that they're asking for the vacation. Now, if it was on the other side of the alley, I'd say, okay, but to the north, they're not blocking it, they're just changing the direction that the traffic can go in and go out.
We had this come up on East Central. The music store was wanting to do a vacation, and that's the first time we ran across it. It's been a little while ago, but
I have a question. Has this been discussed at the staff level with different people and not brought to our commission?
Well, part of the problem,
Other cases, I think.
yeah, part of the problem is we don't know if anybody's objecting to the vacation until the hearing, you know, and unless, if we did, we could address it, but oftentimes it's first we hear about it and then we have to be reactive to it.
Next item, please, 4.1, conditional use amendment.
Good morning, Commissioner. Steve here out with staff. I'm covering for, I'm getting feedback, sorry. I'm covering for Matt on this case. This is a request for a conditional use to essentially expand and establish the entire property under ownership down on South Broadway for the car lot sales facility. As it's outlined in your staff report, this property was had a couple of things that have happened in the past. There was a conditional use permit in 2004-30 that was granted that covered the kind of black square in the middle of this blue area. And that was approved for a car lot sales by the applicant at that time, even though they owned the rest of the property. A year earlier, they had applied for and was granted a conditional use for the entire property, but there were conditions that at that time they didn't feel they could comply with, and so they subsequently withdrew that case. Time has gone by since 03-04, obviously, and we're back down to the point that they have someone who wants to reestablish and make a car lot on the entire property as outlined in the blue. And so they were required to submit a site plan and a new conditional use. We took action to avoid or declare null and void all the previous cases on that. They are asking to now come in and establish the use of the whole property as a car lot facility. The background kind of highlights what's going on. We recognize this is in the South Central area. It's also generally not consistent with what the South Central Plan talks about as land uses within the South Central area. They prefer not to see additional car lots, but you know, there has been one here. They're just wanting to expand to the rest of the land under ownership. So the recommendation of the staff is to approve. There are a number of conditions that are outlined, including a requirement to place on file a current plan that will address all the conditions and all the stipulations outlined in the code and as articulated in your staff report. And we note that if approved here, this will void the previous approval on the center lot to make it all subject to where it's all under the same conditions. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that staff may have.
Mr. McKay.
for the record, is this the same piece of property that we just give a conditional use to not too long ago with the new concept of the pawn shop and the car dealership and all this? Is this the same property?
I don't think so. It's a different location.
Okay.
It's a different location.
Well, because that's going to be a reference. That's the reason why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Questions for staff? Mr. Hartman?
Is there a landscape plan that's,
Not has been submitted, but that's one of the conditions of the approval, that if granted, they have to comply, provide a revised landscape plan that addresses the street yard and the landscape buffer along the alley.
have they supplied a site plan for
Pardon
this?
me?
Have they supplied a site plan for this yet?
I think that's all we've got so far.
So there's no landscaping shown?
Not
yet?
anything that's been submitted, no. They're showing a fence around the property with an entry off of Broadway, and, but there's no landscaping address within this now.
So what landscaping would be necessary?
Well, as it says, there's street yard requirements that will have to be met, so they'll have to provide some landscaping along Broadway, and then there'll also be some landscaping that will be required along the alley, because you've got residential property that is to the east of the property.
Additional questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you, Dave. Agent or applicant, if you would come forward, state your name and address for the record, please, and you will have 10 minutes.
I'm Sandy Roberts, architect, and I'm at 1950 South Webb Road. And we will be submitting the landscape and the site plan with the code information on it.
Any questions for Mr. Roberts? Have you read the terms and conditions that the staff
Yes, I
talked
have
about,
those.
and you're in compliant, you're willing to comply with those?
Yes, we will be submitting those.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further questions, thank you. Open the floor to any speakers in the audience that would like to speak to this issue. If you'd step forward, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name's Janet Price. I'm president of South Central Neighborhood Association. I live at 2010 South Water Street, Wichita, Kansas. And I'm here to state that as a neighborhood and at our DAB meeting, everyone was in agreement that we don't want to add another car lot to South Broadway. From Kellogg to 47th, we have about 70 already. And we're really working right now to get a new image and a new plan for our neighborhood so we can start having some improvements there. And again, our old plan says no, and our new plan would like to make improvements, and that's not considered an improvement in our neighborhood. We have too much of that kind of use going on. Thank you.
You would stay at the podium, please, just for a moment in case there's any questions. Any questions for the speaker? I've got one. What is the plan to get other kinds of businesses in the area?
That's what the neighborhood group and several of the other groups have been working on. But just recently, again, we had the car lot issue that was added at the pawn shop a few blocks away. So this would be 2 more car lots in our area again within a matter of months.
I guess the question that I have is I understand the desire not to have more, but the question is, how do you get, if you don't have, this person's trying to figure out a way to make his land of use somehow to himself, and if there's nobody else that wants it, how are you helping them try to get something other than a car lot into the area?
Well, that's something we're working on the new plan. I didn't bring the plan today to be able to show you that there are several areas that we would like to change to be functional for the neighborhood.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question for the speaker? No, Mr. Dewell.
Yes, can you tell me what
You need to.
Can you tell me what occupies those lots at the present time?
Nothing but weeds right now.
Next speaker. Does anybody else like to speak on this issue? Come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none? Okay. Mr. Roberts, you have 2 minutes for rebuttal if you'd like. Don't have anything? Bring it. Mr. McKay.
I got 3 or 4 emails on this issue. I don't think I'm the only one probably on the commission that got it.
I received 4 emails myself, and I do have concerns that we are going to talk about later in today's agenda, the South Central Neighborhood Plan that's being developed. And part of that plan is trying to get different businesses into the area so we don't continue to build on the number of car lots that exist in that area.
I'm sorry, just for clarification, you've already set a public hearing date, so we will not be discussing that today.
That was what we set for November the 7th.
Okay.
Yeah, November the 7th. We will talk about it. Mr. McKay.
The reason I asked the reference a while ago if it was the same one, I knew it wasn't, but I just, for the record, and if I remember right, when we approved the other one, that we set a time limit on it. Did we not? It was like 2 or 3 years. And then they have to come back in and reapply, and that'd give the I think we did, we put a time limit on it. So that they could, there's no sense in letting it sit there and grow up in weeds at this point in time, in my opinion, if somebody can use it, but if we put a time limit like 3 years on it, or 2 years, whatever that might be, that if the South City organization comes and says, well, we think we need that piece of property, we can do this with it, then to me, it's a win-win situation.
So it's not tied up forever and ever, but it is something. Okay. Mr. Foster.
I'd just be curious, this may have been discussed at advanced plans, but, the highest and best use concept, but no use is not a good thing. So I think that's this concept of this being temporary use or understanding that, I think is very helpful to the discussion.
Mr. Johnson.
Well, I'm going to approach it a little bit different. I know there's a lot of car lots on South Broadway. Some of them are pretty neat, some of them are not so neat. I guess what I feel about this particular case, we're putting requirements on it. It's more restrictive than probably the other car lots on South Broadway. If we start doing that, maybe we can get some of the others either gone or come up to date where they look better.
I understand. Other comments?
Yeah.
Mr. Green.
It appears that there's already a car lot there, and all he's doing is just expanding the business. And if you pull up the current aerial on there, it looks like he's already utilizing it as a car lot anyway, the expanded area. So I don't see any problem with this.
See Dave coming to the microphone.
Yeah, as I understand, they got approved for the car lot at the center part of it. Wanted to expand and tried to get approval of a revised or a new occupancy that required downstairs to approve, and they realized, oh, you're not approved for the expansion to the larger area. So that's kind of where we're here. It was a code enforcement violation that brought the entire property in. But as you saw in your staff report, there was a case filed in 2003 for the whole thing. And because the conditions were they were unwilling to meet those conditions, that time that was withdrawn, they came in just for the center lot that got approved. And
additional questions from Commissioner. Mr. McKay.
Well, my question is, the way I read this, it's the application for the whole lot. The existing
yeah,
one.
the application is for all of the
area.
area.
We approved in 2003 would be null and void, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Who's going to make the motion? Mr. McKay.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve, subject to staff comments, with a 3-year period of time on the conditional use. At that point in time, then that gives both sides a chance to come
They
up
would
with
have to
something.
basically reapply or
They have to
ask for an
reapply
extension
at the end of 3 years.
at the end of the 3 years. That's the motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Dool. Additional questions or comments?
So is the intent that if they got a car lot going sometime in that 3 years, then they would have to come back? Or is the intent that they have to get a car lot going within 3 years or it's void?
Presently, part of the area is an existing car lot, is it not?
Right, but I mean the expanded area.
Well, but the expanded area is all of it, is it not?
Right, correct. I just
Okay,
want to
so
make
I'm-
sure.
Okay, but I'm saying in my motion that the whole piece of property, the expanded and the existing, be approved, subject to staff comments, conditional use for 3 years. Then at 3 years, I don't care if they're successful or, they still got to come back and get another conditional use, then that'll take away, or not take away, but let you show that you're trying to work with the South City Neighborhood Group to improve it.
I'd like to make a substitute motion that, that we approve it. And if another business wants to come in there and it's a higher and better use, it's going to displace the parking lot.
So basically your motion is approve it without a time limit.
With staff recommendations.
Staff recommendation. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that since it's a conditional use anyway, because
Okay.
if it's not happened, it's null and void anyway.
Further discussion. Substitute motion is for approval with staff comments. All those in favor of the substitute motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Show of hands on the
No.
noes. Okay.
7-4.
Okay, so it approves 6-5. Motion approves. Okay, the next item is case number 4.7, zoning change 2019-00037, zone change from SF20. You're not Philip.
afternoon.
You're not
Yes.
Philip. You're Philip?
Yes,
Okay.
that's one of my alternate personalities. Kathy Morgan for the Planning Department. Okay, I don't know, I don't have anything that should be causing that feedback. Okay, so this is out in the county. It's zoned SF20, and the applicant owns this piece of property just to the west of it, and he wants to establish his, as it says in the staff report, a landscaping business. This parcel is approximately 3.87 acres, or 7-8 acres, excuse me. And they're wanting to change it to office warehouse. Any items that are outdoors must be screened in compliance with section 4B3 and B15.E2 is that it's merchandise allowed outside of an enclosed building is only an accessory use. Pawnee Road is an improved road between 159th Street and 143rd Street. Let's see here, the recommended action by staff is to approve the zoning change request. I'll try and answer any questions that the commission may have.
Any questions for Kathy?
Oh, let me show you the pictures. How about that?
There
I
you
don't know
go.
if any of you had a chance to drive by it. This is an existing residence. The zone change is just to the east of this fence line, if you can see that. They are remodeling this, this residence, so there's a lot of vehicles around there right now. And here's another view. The house is to the right of the photo, and here is that fence line where the new office warehouse use would be located. And this is looking back west. The application area would be here on the left of your screen, on the left of the screen, and you can see the house behind. Here's another looking southeast at the site. This is the rear of the house. So your site would be over to the right of the photo. Oops, excuse me. And then this is just another, as you can see, there's nothing around that. It's all either ag land or pasture land. There are no residences on either side of that, on either side of the properties.
Questions for Kathy? If not, thank you. Agent or applicant, if you'd like to come forward, state your name and address for the record. You would have 10 minutes.
What would you like to have up? What photo? Okay.
Go ahead. Where's the button? Is the microphone on?
Is it on? Okay. Yeah, I'm Bill Stulsides. We own Premier Landscape. This is my son, Will, my wife, and my daughter-in-law. It's a family-owned business. We're on a location now that we've been boxed in for 15 years because the owners won't let us do anything. And we bought this property hoping that we could get it rezoned. And as you can see, if someone would go by there, they can tell we're spending a fortune on that house that used to be there. It's not going to look like a pile of junk anymore. And we're just asking to see if we can get this rezoned. We're going to shift gears in the way we do things with our landscaping company. We're pretty well just going to go to all discharge mowers, so we won't have any grass being hauled in or anything anymore. But we will still have brush and trimmings from shrubs and stuff, but we will have a designated area for a dumpster there, and that stuff will be put in the dumpster every night. And when the dumpster gets full, we will haul it off. We been in business, like I said, 20 years. We do a lot of big jobs. That's our bread and butter, is doing commercial work. Irrigation, landscaping, doing the whole thing when we move in. Lay the sod, do everything. Right now, we have, I don't know, right now, the job we have going on right now is a city job, Steeple Bay. The job we just finished down there was Camping World and Gander Mountain. And now we moved on to the city job for the city of Wichita, Steeple Bay. Last year, our big job was we did the Cargill building downtown. So we know what we're doing when we know in the landscaping and stuff and make things look good. We can build this thing and it'll look right and it'll stay clean. We just, like I said, have had our hands tied where we've been. And then the job before that, year before that, we did mark arts for the Cokes. So we worked for the Cargills and the Cokes and them kind of people. And we're pretty proud of our work we do. So we're just asking for a chance to get rezoned, build a building in there. And Will's got a horticulture degree, so I think we'd do a pretty good job landscaping it, screening it in, everything that needs to be screened in like it should be. Want to speak?
I'm Will Stulsides. I live at 8217 East Tamarack.
It's our intentions to develop the property to service our business in a cleaner, more environmentally friendly way. It has been our dream for many years to build a facility that we are proud of and enjoy going to on a daily basis. It is our intention to layer screening so nothing can be seen that is sightly. It's also our intention to not accumulate waste. We're not a landfill.
That's it. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicants? Mr. Foster?
I could see one question relates to, do you anticipate any, what type of chemicals would you be keeping around for the business?
Yes. Turf care products. Chemicals would be pesticides that are used for turf care primarily. Tree ornamental turf or tree and ornamental care. So pesticides, which would be herbicides, insecticides. Those are the primary chemicals that would be around, and then all the fertilizer would be palletized bagged fertilizer that would be stored inside this new facility. That's why we are actually going for office warehouses primarily, to shift gears from being just a landscape business into a turf care business. And when I say turf care, I don't mean mowing. That is fertilizing and giving somebody a residential lawn, something that they're really proud of.
Additional questions? You have Mr. Hartman? Oh, I'm sorry.
There won't be any retail done there, right?
No, sir.
We do no retail. We don't store no plants. We don't store no trees, nothing like that. We buy everything from Johnson's Nursery, ship it straight to the job we put it in.
Any additional questions? Not, thank you. Is there anybody from the audience wish to speak on this issue?
Mr. McKay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, before you go, do you agree to all the terms and conditions that the staff put out in the report?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll open the floor to anybody that would like to speak on the issue. Just go forward, state your name and address for the record, please. You will have 3 minutes.
If you can click on that and open your, if you brought pictures.
Go ahead, you go first. Well, I don't really want those. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, so how do we close those? How do we close those?
How do you go backwards on that?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Jim, can you help me from the room on closing that out?
If you go forward to it, it keeps it. No, it's in your loop of your.
There we go.
There we go.
And you can.
Okay, and to be able to advance one from that to the 35 plan. Yeah.
There you go.
And back and forth is arrows on one side of the other.
Okay, so see this little roll thing
Yep.
here? You just move it forward or back.
Perfect. Thank you very much. My name is Bill Giles, and I'm here on behalf of Lee Banks Living Trust, which is basically this quarter section right adjacent to the proposed rezoned property. And if I may take a moment, I'm gonna stretch my 3 minutes. We actually have family history with the applicants, in that one of Mr. Banks's granddaughters was friends with the applicant's daughter when they were both in school years ago, and had the opportunity to meet them when Lee and I went over to their business to reintroduce ourselves and ask some questions about what they were proposing to do. What we understand in this, if staff can correct us otherwise, there's no specific site development plan that has been made part of the application. So it is strictly an application for a proposed change in land use. And that does raise some serious concerns for us, and I think adjacent property owners as well, in that while we talk about the specifics of the proposed business that would go in at this time, the change to the office warehouse land use by description in your zoning ordinance is the potential that it could also be used by right with as a general office, general retail, an asphalt or concrete plant, warehousing, as well as the general subject of construction, sales, and service, which has been referenced for the proposed business that the applicant has. And we look at even up through 2035, we see that the anticipated general use is agriculture, very low density residential. And in the course of looking at the zoning ordinance, there's some two dozen different zoning districts, from the least dense, least intense to the most dense, most intense. And we're at the very end, the beginning of the least intense land use. And this is a proposed change, 12 different districts of greater intensity and greater use than is currently used or even expected to be used by 2035, spot zoning. And it raises a very, very big concern that while we know that the expectation of this single use might be focused on a landscaping service building, we're changing the land use to a district that allows a great many more other uses which have even greater concerns for us than just the particulars for individuals that we know, and we can see the history, the successful history they've had in their. Yes, sir.
Let me interrupt you just for a second. How much time do you think you will need?
Well, I think I'm trying to get pretty close to the end. If I run my 3 minutes, if I could just.
I'll give you another 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. We've met and we've got concerns about the specific site development plan, which would come later. But the idea here that this width is too great a concern, besides the individual concerns we've got for the business. In the course of the staff's recommendations, item number 2 references that there's a single-family residence on the subject property. And as we look at the specific property in question, the residence is on this parcel, which is not subject to the proposed change in application. Item number 3 in the recommendations references that there'll be minimal negative impacts, and that raises concern too about which of the list of impacts were considered and how were they managed to be negative or minimal. Referencing also that this particular location for commercial services would be able to serve the immediate area, while once again changing the land use to this very big, broad selection of uses besides just what the applicant proposed to do now. It may not actually be in kind with what services may be needed here, and there basically services for people in the area. We all go into town for the things that we need. Item number 4 in the recommendation references specifically that the community investment plan identifies this as agricultural vacant use and within the context. And it says that this proposed use is not within that plan, and that though a commercial use is not explicitly stated as appropriate use, a protective overlay could ensure property harmoniously incorporates into the fringe development. And I'm not sure that I am aware that any protective overlay is part of the proposed action that's been applied for now. Yes, sir.
Sir, your time has expired. Are there any questions for the speaker? Thank you.
Thank you.
Please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. My name's Christopher Lett. I live at 14900 East Pawnee, across the street from the proposed property. And just like Mr. Giles, I do have concerns that they have not submitted a site plan, and this is their existing, what's up on the screen now is their existing facility. And while they say they're going to beautify where they're buying now, was nothing preventing them to do what they are doing now at the site they're at. And I have great concerns of the runoff from where they're at, their existing facility. So I would recommend a no. If not a no, then at least something that gives them just a limited time period for the conditional or for a use. The other thing is the county doesn't, or it's very unusual for them to do a spot zoning. And to do a zoning change in the middle of a S420 is kind of unusual. My greatest concern, though, again, is this is what I'll have to look forward to in the future if they are approved. That's all I've got.
Any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on this issue? Not, I'll bring it back to the agent or applicant. You will have 2 minutes of rebuttal.
It was under our understanding for permitting purposes, no site plan had to be submitted. If that was the requirement, we would have followed through with that and had that, that would have been provided. As far as erosion runoff, we're unable to expand the property we're at with gravel. So that, once that became what it was, driving out there became an issue. And our new facility, we will have plenty of pavement, gravel, something to drive on to where we don't tear up the existing ground too much and then allow for runoff. I deal with that on a daily basis, being on construction sites, understand what the implications are. So we will definitely, being our own property, will be sure to avoid that being an issue.
If you can hold just for a moment, so in case we have any.
We got kind of a partial drawing here, if you would like to see it. The building and the landscaping that we've already put in, that he's put in.
That will go in, yeah.
That, where he was gonna plant trees and screenings.
The
and
screening
stuff.
required by the city.
Let's see how the questions come up, because we would need enough photos for everybody to see. So let's see what happens, and then we may get that.
Okay.
Questions for the speakers. Mr. Foster.
As brought up in the staff report regarding a protective overlay, it certainly seems appropriate so that this doesn't become a spot zoning in an ag area or this SF area. What types of restrictions of use would you see? Do you understand the concept of a protective overlay?
Yeah, Mr. Knable explained all that to us originally.
Okay. What kind of restrictions could you see relative to your use to make this possible?
It's a pretty broad spectrum for the office warehouse zoning. I mean, we have no intentions of having a majority of the things on the list. There's not gonna be a rock crushing quarry, obviously, a rodeo, there was airport. As far as stuff that would apply to us, I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I'd be open to discussion.
Any other questions for the speakers? Mr. McKay?
Would you entertain a deferment for, say, 2 weeks to sit down with the staff to come up with a protective overlay for this piece of property?
Yeah, we'd be fine with that.
Would it be possible to approve subject to staff?
That was gonna be my motion.
That's gonna be your motion? Okay, I'll shut up then. Before I let you have the floor, Mr. Johnson, I'll let staff have the floor.
One approach would be that if the landscaping business is the only thing they want in OW, is a protective overlay that says that even though it's zoned OW, the only OW use allowed is landscaping and nursery business, but then otherwise they're cut back to the SF20, the uses allowed in SF20. So it basically limit them to the use they say they want, protect the neighbors from any expanded use. That would be another way to take care of it.
Mr. Foster?
I think plus add the site plan submittal as a condition and this could move forward.
Okay, subject staff review of the site plan, okay? Yes, sir.
And Chairman, I was going to suggest that I think I saw some nonverbals, but I'd suggest asking the applicant if they would agree to those conditions before making the motion, if they have any objection to it.
You heard the question. Do you have any objection to limiting the uses to landscape and what was the nursery?
Well, I don't have any objections to that.
No, I don't have any objections.
Don't have any objections to that kind of restriction, okay? Now, I think we're close to a motion. Mr. Johnson?
I'd make that motion.
So that we're clear to approve limiting use to landscape and nursery.
Yes.
All the conditions, all of the staff conditions, and a
Site
site plan review between the applicants and staff.
And with the office warehouse.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the office warehouse.
Do we have that motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah.
I have a second by Mr. Green. Further discussion? Everybody clear on the motion? Clear. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Is there anything else on the agenda that I'm not seeing? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you for your service.